Okay, cool. So who first saw me speak about Bitcoin? I think 4 or 5 years ago in the crowd. 4 or 5 years ago. Remember when I spoke about it for the first time? What was the price of Bitcoin? It was about $16,000. Remember? What's the price of Bitcoin today? Okay. So best performing asset in the entire world for the last 10 to 12 years. There's no asset that's outperformed Bitcoin. And every time I come to one of these business conferences, I always ask, what's the price? Okay, now today I don't want to talk about the price. I actually want to talk about something that's more profound, because I think something is up. Something is up that's quite tectonic, and I think a lot of us are just looking at Bitcoin from a price go up, price go down perspective. Alec did ask me to speak about both AI and Bitcoin. I'm going to talk about how these two things are actually interrelated and how they're coming together and what's happening in the world today. If you take a look at what Trump is up to, is actually very much interlocked and merging together. And I think we are not seeing it for what it is. And hopefully today I'm going to expound on that a little bit, and then Alec and I will do a bit of a Q&A associated with that. But I think something tectonic is underway. I believe we are birthing a new world order. I think things are changing completely all around us and we're not recognizing it. There's a book called The Fourth Order by Strauss and Howe, and they speak about where we are right now. Like every 80 years, something tectonically changes. There's 4 changes within that every 20, 30 years. They said from the year 2008 with the financial crisis up until now, we're kind of midway through the fourth of the fourth. So we're in the fourth change or the fourth evolution. And this is the crisis phase. And I think what Trump's doing, these announcements that you're hearing, strategic Bitcoin reserves, you hear what he's doing with AI and these big investments, etc. These things make sense when you look underneath the covers. So let's take a look at it. Today, if you take a look at why are we in a crisis, nothing's working. Think about it for a second, right? Our money doesn't work anymore. Doesn't. You in the room here have assets, so you have the ability to navigate your way around inflation and currency debasement. But you are not reflective of what's happening in the rest of the world today. There are 3 billion people that are unbanked. Most of society in South Africa don't have exposure to the things that you have exposure to. And those folks don't have hope. We've never seen suicide rates higher than we've seen today. We've never seen depression. We've never seen human birth rates starting to collapse. We're seeing population declines. China is suffering from this. The United States, these G7 countries have an issue associated with this. What's going on? In my opinion, it's because the money is broken. Right? If you take a look at central banks, what banks do, what treasuries do to deflate money, to inflate certain aspects, to completely debase what you and I call fiat currency, we understand today that that is not sustainable. Right? So if you take a look at labor, energy, money, trust, food, everything's broken. And what worries me about South Africa today is that we speak about things that aren't really relevant in this new world order. We speak about labor in a very much a 20th century way. We speak about money and VAT and budgets in a very 20th century way. When we talk about VAT, Donald Trump talks about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And they talk about digital assets. And they're redefining money. They're moving money away from central banks and debasement, and they're moving it into this decentralized framework. And it's a new way to store value. A value that maintains its value over time. This is a redefinition. Labor. We talk about jobs. Guess what? AI is here. Most of you in this room know AI is here. So labor is going to be redefined. Why? Because intelligence is separating from human consciousness. And that separation of intelligence from human consciousness is going to be one of our biggest challenges. Because who we are, when we meet each other, what do we do when we meet each other? We ask ourselves, what do you do? That's the first thing we ask. What's your name? And the first next question is, what do you do? Our identity and who we are so interrelated, so dependent on the work that we do. But that is being redefined today. Artificial intelligence is birthing a whole new world order of jobs, work, and identity. We in South Africa, we fight for jobs in this old economic way. We talk about VAT, and our budget has no ideation inside of it. It's got no technological aspect to it in any way or form. And that's very, very worrying for me. Why? Because I believe AI and Bitcoin are very symbiotic. When you speak about these two things, you can't separate them out. They actually depend on it. Why? AIs need Bitcoin. Today, AIs do things in a very automated way, in a very dumb way. In the next 3 to 5 years, AIs are going to do things in a much more automated way. We've already seen some of that automation. When you get into an Uber, you know what's magical about an Uber ride? Wasn't the fact that you called the driver through a mobile app. You know what's magical? Is that you climbed in, you spoke to him, and you climbed out. And when you climbed out, you paid. And you paid without paying. The machine spoke to the machines, and settlement happened relative to that cab ride. We are going to see autonomous vehicles accepting payment in that way. Autonomous vehicles driving themselves to a fueling station to get their batteries charged back up. Autonomous vehicles driving themselves to a repair shop. And that transaction enablement will happen in a distributed way.